Liverpool had a shocking performance in the Carabao Cup final. They were outrun and outclassed by Newcastle United. In this podcast, I'm going to provide my thoughts and opinions on the cup final and go through some of the main talking points. Right from the kickoff, Newcastle United wanted it more. Their players were more energetic, they were more up for it. It's been 70 years since they lifted a cup, and you could really tell that this cup final meant more to them than us. It meant more to their players, it meant more to their fans. Newcastle start to implement their game plan and they start to assert their dominance. It is clear to see that set pieces are a major part of their game plan. They've clearly put Dan Burn on the edge of the box at the far post, and he's going to be their main target. To my astonishment, to my shock, it's Alexis McAllister who's marking him. And this happened two, three times before Newcastle actually scored. You've got a 6'7" beast who is very capable and proficient in the air. He's a tremendous header of the ball. And what do? We put our shortest player, Alexis McAllister, to mark him. That was just absolutely pathetic and ridiculous. It makes no sense. It is pure stupidity to put Maka against Burn when there is almost a foot difference between the two. We've got Kwanzaa 6'4", Konate 6'4", Verge 6'5", and Gravenberg 6'3". Yet what do we decide to do? We decide to put 5'8" Alexis McAllister against their tallest player. This was bound to hurt us, and it did just before the halftime break. After the break, Newcastle doubled their lead with Isak taking his chance brilliantly. And that's the difference between their quality number nine and our number nines who are currently misfiring in Jota and Nunes. He takes half a chance. It's a difficult chance as well because it's on the bounce, yet he places it precisely into the corner. From here on in, it's an uphill struggle for Liverpool. We have to throw caution to the wind and do our best to get back in the game. Slot makes a few substitutions. He brings on Curtis and Darwin. Then later on, he brings on Gakpo. After that, he brings on Elliot and Chiesa. Elliot and Chiesa actually make a big difference. Elliot looks quite threatening, and he's the only one who is putting passes through, creating chances. He gave a couple of nice passes to Nunes, who unfortunately could not control properly, and he squanders the chance. However, Chiesa does take his chance, but it's too little, it's too late. Now, I don't normally like to criticize our manager. Arne has got so many things right this season. The changes he's made throughout the season have been fantastic. We've turned things around in the second half, and generally, he's managed the players quite well. However, in this instance, I think he got a lot of things wrong. First and foremost, I do not think Diego Jota should have started. He's been misfiring for us, and since he's come back from his injury, he's simply not been the same player. I don't know if he's carrying a niggle or what the issue is, but clearly he's not been performing well. The man has not scored for, what is it, 10, 12 matches. The next thing that really annoyed me is Slot's persistence to play Gakpo, even though he's clearly not match fit. He came on against PSG and he could not close down their players. He could not press. He could not chase easy through balls. So clearly he's not fit enough to play. So why play him? Give Elliot or Chiesa a chance earlier on. But no, Gakpo comes on before both Elliot and Chiesa, even though he's not fully match fit. In terms of the Chiesa issue, it's baffling. I simply don't understand it. He is a class player who's performed at the highest level. He's also a good penalty taker, yet he did not come on against PSG. He's not been given a chance in other games. In this instance, the only reason he even came onto the pitch in the Carabao Cup final is out of sheer desperation. The man is the only signing under Arne's slot and is not being given a chance. I know we signed Mamadashvili as well in the summer, but he was immediately loaned out. So Chiesa remains the only signing who's actually in our squad, right? And he's not being played, even though we know he's a class player. He's taken Italy to the Euro finals and won it for them. So surely he deserves a chance. Chiesa and Elliott were the only two that made a real difference, which begs the question, why did they not come on earlier? They were the only two real fresh players with freshness in their legs to be able to compete with Newcastle. Yet we persisted with leggy players who have played 3 games in the last week, including one that went all the way to penalties. It was poor management, in my opinion, and Slot must learn from this. It's not just the 15 players that you play all the time. You've got a squad for a reason. There's a reason why Premier League teams who compete in Europe and in other domestic cups have big squads, and there's a reason why they utilize all of those players because they are simply needed. Moving forward, I really think that Arne needs to rotate more. He needs to give some of his players outside of his favorite 15 more of a chance. And that brings me on to my next point. I feel like we missed out on opportunity to rest key players against Southampton. We knew we had 3 games in 7 days. So I feel like the Southampton match was the perfect opportunity to rest certain players. They are quite a poor team, let's be honest, without being disrespectful. They've got a very low points tally and they've not really been performing at a good level. So, once again, this would have been the perfect opportunity to rest players in between the two ties against PSG. If you know you're coming up against one of the best teams, if not the best in Europe, then surely you want your players to have fresh legs going into that. You also know that after the PSG tie, you've got a cup final coming. So again, it would have made sense, it would have been prudent to rest players against Southampton. Let's go through the team that played against Southampton. You've got Alisson Becker in goal, Trent, Konate, Van Dijk, and Simicas in defence. In my opinion, we could have easily played Kwanzaa instead of Konate. We know Konate has had issues with injuries in the past, and he struggles to play 3 games a week. Under Klopp, it was the same sort of issue, and Ibu hardly played 3 games in a week. He would be rotated and managed. Tsimikas starting made sense. He gave Robbo a bit of a rest. Now, in terms of our midfield, we've got Soboslai, Gravenberg, and Curtis Jones. In my opinion, Gravenberg could have easily been rested for this match. We could have played Endo instead, and Ryan's looked really leggy since about January. He's played an awful amount of minutes and he could have really done with a good rest. Same goes for Dom. He's run his heart out, especially in the first leg against PSG, and we could have easily played Harvey instead of Dom as the number 10 or number 8. Moving on to our forward line, we had Salah, Nunes, and Diaz start the game. No real complaints over here because Mo tends to get through games quite well and he's got a very good injury record. Nunes did get substituted on the 68th minute for Jota, so that's quite good. We rotated over there. However, for Lucho, I feel like Chiesa could have come on for him towards the end. I realize I'm probably coming across as someone who's very negative, but it was an incredibly frustrating game to watch. There were things that I really felt genuinely that we could have done differently. That's why I felt the need to sort of point them out. Overall, I feel like this is a major learning curve for Arne in his first season as Liverpool manager. There are key lessons that he must have learned from this. He can take these lessons into the future seasons. This team has performed incredibly throughout this season, and I'm very grateful for the position that we're in because if you gave me the Premier League at the start of the season, I would have definitely taken it. So let's just make sure that we secure the Premier League. We've got a big 12-point gap. A few more wins should secure it. And yeah, we'll have a big party at the end of the season. Finally, before I go, I just want to congratulate Newcastle United. They performed really well. Their players were up for it. Every tackle got cheered. I mean, Joe Linton celebrated 4 or 5 tackles as if they were goals. So clearly, it meant a lot to them. Their fans really wanted it. They were very happy. So congratulations to them. The better team won on the day. That concludes our audio podcast. Thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to give it a like. If you want more content like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will catch you all again very soon.